Well, it finally happened. Spun a bearing in the Sentra. The motor is knocking. It's 7 days before the SR20 convention, and the motor is knocking. Lovely, ain't it? Oh man, that's crazy, man. Run the clip. Let's get this over with, man.
Shit, you fucking crazy.
So this is the next motor. This is a SR20 VE out of a P11 Nissan Primera. This is just a bare block. It does still have a good crank in it, and all the main caps are there and everything. This one looks pretty clean. All I'm gonna do with this is just hone the cylinders, replace the bearings and a couple seals, and throw some pistons and rods in it, stock pistons and rods for the time being, because this happened at the worst possible time. I have rent to pay, so I can't fork out like $1,200 to $1,500 on rods and pistons right now. But we're gonna get this together for the SR20 convention. I already have some parts here to put it together. I got some bearings. These are ACL Racing rod bearings. Here's the part number for that. These are standard size. This is for SR20 DE. Those are all the same. I think the only different ones would be for the Pulsar GTIR. They're wider, or maybe the VET engine might be a little bit different. We got ACL main bearings. Now these are meant for a GTIR, but they can be used in an SR20 DE. These are special because they have 5 holes for oiling instead of just 1. These VE blocks have a little channel in the mains to help with oiling on the crankshaft. And this 5-hole bearing is actually going to help a lot with oiling for the crank. So this is kind of like an upgrade. Got a rear main seal here. Here's the part number for that, and some piston rings. I couldn't find OEM, so I went with some D&J replacement piston rings. These are all marked on the bag for first ring, second ring, and oil. So we got those for now. I'm not really worried about what's going on internal wise with this motor right now, because it's gonna come back apart again to get forged internals. So we're just trying to make it run for the SR20 convention. Also below, we got a VET head gasket, which I already had in the house because I keep spares. So VET head gasket. Here's the part number for that, OEM Nissan part. And we're gonna get it together, boys. I'm gonna try and reuse the pistons out of this engine, which should still be good. It didn't lose compression and it didn't burn oil or anything. So the pistons should still be good on this motor. And Roger Raymond is sending me a set of rods to throw in this block. So we're gonna get it together, boys, and we're going to make it to the SR20 convention because I have came entirely too far with this car for it not to make it there. So basically what we're gonna do is put this engine, or put this block together, and then we're gonna transfer the head over onto this block and transfer the oil pan and turbo setup and all that stuff, and then put the motor back in the car, and we should be good. Honestly, the motor that is in this car, it has had a rough life. I am not the first owner of it in the US. It was owned by someone else prior to me acquiring it, and I'm sure he showed it no mercy. The word is this engine used to be on nitrous, and then it was on a turbo setup, then it was NA for a minute, and now it fell into my hands, and kablowy, there it is. So we're gonna get it back together. We're gonna make it to the SR20 convention because we have came extremely too far and spent way too much money trying to get this car together. So she's gonna make it, boys. And worst case scenario, if this does not work out, then I still have the NX. I could always just take the wheels and tires off the Sentra and throw them on this and just ride out there with that. But that's not what I'm trying to do. So if you're dealing with a DE or VE bottom end and you're trying to boost it, you're gonna have to drill and tap the block for an oil return. And that's gonna require a few things. You're gonna need a drill, you're gonna need a 1/4" drill bit, a 1/2" drill bit. You can use a 23/32 drill bit or 47/64 drill bit. Then you're gonna need a 1/2" MPT tap, and then whatever fitting you're gonna use. So there's actually a whole process with how this works. So your smallest drill bit, the 1/4" drill bit, you are going to drill all the way through the block. Once you've done that, you're gonna follow it up with the 1/2" drill bit, and again, drill all the way through. Now, once you get to your biggest drill bit, either the 23/32 or 47/64, you're only gonna drill 3/4 of the way through. And once you drill 3/4 of the way through, then you can go in with a tap. The tap size that I use is a 1/2" MPT. The thread would be 1/2" 14. So once you hit it with your biggest drill bit, then you're gonna tap it with your 1/2" MPT tap, and then you can install your fitting into the block. It should thread right in. Alright, so we're going to start with honing the cylinders. This is a ball hone. What this does is it basically makes like a fresh surface, and it'll leave a crosshatch pattern on the cylinder walls so that the rings can seal properly. To use this, all you do is just put a little oil on the balls, pause, and then you're going to run it down inside the cylinders. Like so. It just fits in there, and it will clean up the cylinder walls. These look pretty good, but you know, they're just kind of glazed from regular use, you know, so we're going to clean these up with the hone, and then we'll move on to the piston rings and, you know, setting the piston ring gap for everything. So being that this engine started its life as a non-turbo engine and we're going to be turboing it, we are going to run a slightly larger piston ring gap than stock. I will leave the specs for the factory SR20 VE piston ring gaps and the limits and everything. But with the boosted engine, you kind of want to run a slightly larger piston ring gap. And the way we're going to do that is with this tool right here. This is a piston ring gap tool, and basically it's just a little grinder, mechanical grinder, that will open up the gap until you get the spec that you want. We're going to set it inside the bore of the engine, and we're going to check the amount of space in between these 2 points. It has to be a certain range to be within spec, so we're going to set it in the bore, and then we're going to check this distance using a feeler gauge. Now the ring gap, we're actually going to set it a little bit wider than factory spec because this motor came NA from the factory. So now that it's turbo, I think it would be more beneficial to run a slightly wider piston ring gap just because it's a boosted application. Are relatively close to factory spec. Man, it's like 12 o'clock. I'm so tired right now. I stayed and worked overtime last night at work, so I was there till around 4:30, and then I came home. So, man, as far as the engine goes, I feel like I have gotten as far as I can possibly go with it with the parts that I have currently. Once the rods get here, then I can continue on with messing with the block. So what I'm gonna do is, I guess I'm gonna start taking the car apart now. I'm gonna take the turbo setup off, the intake manifold, and pull the head off. And then I'll be able to inspect the pistons and see what kind of condition that they're in. So really that's, at this point, I think that's about all that I can do until the rods arrive. And then I can start messing with the block again. But the thrust washers came in yesterday. Shout out to Mazworks for getting those out to me. So I have all the bearings for the bottom end now, rods, mains, and thrusts. So once the rods get here, then I'll dive back into that. But for now, I'm just gonna take the car apart and get the pistons out of the block that's in the car. Just pull the head off, and as suspected, the pistons look good. Looks like we did actually have a little bit of oil burning going on, but the pistons look fine. While I was wiping down all the oil and cooling off the surface, I had pressed down on cylinder number 3 and it went clunk. So I'm gonna say that's the problem. Cylinder number 3. I haven't got to the bottom end yet. I'll probably take that apart tomorrow before work. But we got the head off, so that's a major milestone. Yeah, no cracked pistons, guys. So that's definitely good news. Definitely good news.